All right, guys, welcome back to the Life Outside the Mold podcast. Today I have the privilege of speaking with a motivational speaker, Kyle Dendy. Kyle is a 22-year-old founder of Dendy Ventures, in which he helps people get featured on Fox, CBS, NBC in 24 hours or less. He helps people build their authority and brands through media coverage, speaking gigs, and so forth. Kyle has traveled the world himself, giving empowering motivational speeches to thousands across the world. Kyle, first of all, thank you for coming on to the show today. Can you give me maybe a background, maybe 1 or 2 minute overview of who you are, maybe a little snapshot of what exactly it is you do?
Of course. Well, first and foremost, I appreciate you having me on the show. This is a great honor to have the chance to share my story. So, Cody, I definitely appreciate it. So, my name is Kyle Dendy. I'm a 23-year-old author, speaker, entrepreneur. I really hate putting labels on things because even things that I'm doing now aren't necessarily things that I put my identity in, but I want to build a branch of different ventures that I have going on underneath me. But I'm 23 now. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I recently moved here with my wife from Dallas, Texas. I'm born and raised in Dallas. And from an early age, especially in Texas, football is a huge thing, sports, of course. And so my aspirations for a long time, like many others around me, was to play sports in college. I was kind of going that route, that direction, and try to make that happen. And then in 2014, I ended up having 2 surgeries, ankle and knee surgery, and I saw all those aspirations kind of disappear. But at that same time in all my life, if you had asked me, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I probably would have told you entrepreneur. I didn't know what the venture would be, but I knew that I wanted to work for myself because the first time somebody told me about that, in my mind, I couldn't register why anybody else would do anything but that, to be able to work for yourself and make money, your own way. And so throughout high school, college, and even on to now, I had the opportunity to do a lot of speaking, and I'm sure we'll dive into that in this podcast. But at 18 years old, was traveling the country on speaking tours, starting little businesses here and there. But it was probably really like 2019 that I really started to get something off the ground that, kind of led to what I'm doing now, which is my PR agency. And so we're able to get people featured, and I probably have 100 different publications that we could get somebody featured in. But that Fox, CBS, NBC bundle is the most popular. It's our low ticket offer that we try to do at high scale. And that kind of brings people into our ecosystem that we're able to send them to bigger press, bigger opportunities that range from TV opportunities to, you want to get verified on social media, whatever it is under that social media umbrella. I always tell people I can do it for you, or I know somebody who can. And so that's kind of the role that I play for a lot of people in this space.
Yeah. So before we kind of dive into your media publication company, I want to ask you, you're 23 and you seem like you've achieved a lot of success at such a young age. Do you have like a specific drive behind this type of achievement? Was it just curiosity? Did you always have this drive?
Man, I have something in my personality that whatever I do, I want to try to be great at it. And from an early age, that was sports. And so I threw myself completely into that, from every camp to training to workout, trying to be great at that, great at my position. And then, getting into entrepreneurship, sports taught me a lot. And I think it continues in entrepreneurship in that, like, to me, it's a game. And not a game in the sense of, like, obviously I have responsibilities, I'm married and there's bills. But I think once a person in their business can get past just thinking about, okay, how can I get the next bill paid, and really fall in love with, like, man, I have the opportunity to wake up each day, decide what I'm going to create, who I'm going to contact, what I can build. And I love that game of it, the game of entrepreneurship. And so, like, if I'm trying to, beat my competition within a certain industry, it's not personal. I don't have any bad vibes toward that person. It's a game. It's I want to compete. I think that's the word that I was looking for. I love to compete. And so if I'm going to throw myself into anything, in this case, business, I want to see how can I be great at it and how can I aim to be the best. And I may not become number one. There may be people that are, better than, but how can I become the best that I can be?
It's interesting that you say it's like a game, because when you think about it as, okay, it's to pay the bills, it's almost like this kind of it's this creator of stress. But when you think of it as a game, it's almost like you get more creative, you talk to more people. It's just a whole different mindset with it. So I
Exactly.
really like that. But I want to ask you, a lot of 18-year-olds, especially guys, feel pressure to go to college. And I say this
Of course.
because guys are the ones generally who don't enjoy school. It's almost like they have two options, college or trade school. What would you say to someone who genuinely does not want to go to college?
Man, that's a great question. And I actually did go to college. And so, when we get to the conversation of, if you're an entrepreneur, should you go to college? I think a lot of people take one of two extremes. And I think oftentimes people take the extreme of the one that they did. I'm not here to tell you, you should or shouldn't go to college. I will say this. I think there's a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people who the reason they say they don't want to go to college isn't because they have something else that they're going to pursue. It's just because they're lazy. And that's
Mhm.
not everybody. But I think there's a lot of people who don't want to do the work of school. And the problem with that is that when you get into business or working for yourself, you got to work even harder. It doesn't get easier.
Yeah.
Now, it may be more rewarding. It may be something that, you enjoy more, but if you don't fix the getting past that apathy piece, dropping out of school isn't going to fix that.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would say this, like, there's a saying that you got to work it till it works. So if you're like, hey, I don't want to go to college, and you're in a position where you kind of have that freedom to choose, line something else up. There's so many ways in 2021 where your overhead doesn't have to be $10,000-$20,000 a month for you to get by. If
Mhm.
you really want to drop out of school and do the entrepreneurship, but you're trying to get that off the ground, get some roommates who are also trying to do the same thing. Live in a place where you can afford it at the time until
Yeah.
you get it off the ground. Work it until it works. Because a lot of people, I think they don't make wise moves. They're
Mhm.
kind of overly ambitious and they're not calculated with their moves. And so it puts them in a tight spot to where now your overhead is so big that you have to make money. And
Mhm.
that can take the fun out of the game compared to when, you've got those bills taken care of. And as I'm sure we'll talk about even
Mhm.
more, like I mentioned, like you're playing it for the love of the game.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point because I think there is this, people do drop out with maybe too much ambition, but there is this kind of mantra that, oh, if you drop out, you're considered lazy. So there's almost this stigma towards anyone who drops out, really. But it's a really good point. And so the next sort of section I want to dive into is your media company. What sort of proprietary systems do you have that allows you to take clients who may have no authority or credibility within their industry and tie them up with media connections so that in a matter of
Sure.
24 to 48 hours, they're given much more awareness and traffic to whatever it is, whatever industry they're in?
Yeah, let's break that down. And like I said before, I have probably 100 different publications that we could get people featured in.
Mhm.
That can go all the way up to Forbes and getting on TV to the entry level, which is what we talked about with that Fox, CBS, and NBC bundle. Now, like there's Fox.com, CBS.com, NBC.com. In addition to that, I'm in Los Angeles right now. I'm from Dallas. Let's say um, it's Fox 5. I don't know what it is in Los Angeles, but there's Fox, CBS, and NBC stations and sites all around the country. And so what we're actually able to do is, publish somebody's story on these stations as a part of like a partnership. We're able to publish these press releases essentially on
Yeah.
these stations. But the key, and this is something that has been hard to navigate at the scale that we've been doing it at, but the key is that at the end of the day, it's us endorsing it, right?
Yeah.
So at the top of one of your stories, it may say, story by Dendy Media or something like that. But actually getting people, their first publication to get their word out is something that has been so rewarding, not just for me, but for the people we get featured.
Mhm.
A lot of us have seen, whether it's on a book or whether it's on somebody's website where it says as seen in Fox, CBS, and NBC. That is exactly what we do.
Yeah.
And we charge $97 for it. It's a very entry level price because we're just getting people into our ecosystem. Now, of course, with the low price comes high scale. So the next question is, okay, how can we do it so fast and how can we do it at such high scale? When it comes to the speed question, like, and I can say this honestly, like it's one of the areas in where we have such a competitive advantage over a lot of people. competition because our systems are so dialed in. And when I
Yeah.
say dialed in, I mean like the process of somebody getting featured looks like this. If you were to go to the website and sign up right now, you would be automatically sent a questionnaire. And then from that questionnaire, after you complete it with questions about what you do, your work, et cetera, you would then submit a photo. After that photo is submitted by you, it all automatically compiles into a story, an article, in which my team then reviews it and then gets it published and then delivers it to you without me touching anything. So
Yeah.
whether we publish one person or 1,000, it's the same, honestly, amount of work for me. But that's because of all the work we did on the back end to actually set that up. There's a company that, man, like, I don't understand why. Maybe everybody knows about it, but there's a company called Zapier, and I wish more people understood it or more people knew about it. It actually allows you to automate a lot of tasks that otherwise you would have had to hire people for or do yourself. I have a lot of Zapier situations that are connected, and then a lot of other integrations. And so the process of building that was a lot of work, a lot of trial and error, a lot of things not working, then having to fix it. But all of that was over a year ago. And since then, we really don't have to touch it. And so maybe we'll get to it at some point in this conversation, but I need people to understand that there's a big difference between hard work and smart work. Like, I'm a very
Mm.
hard worker, I would say, but I'm even more of a smarter worker. So instead of trying to work hard every day throughout the entire year, I put in countless hours at the beginning of this business journey to automate everything. Because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, you only have 24 hours. And if you add teammates, you're going to be paying more and more and more. But if you can figure out how to automate tasks, man, you can scale your business a lot faster. And since then,
Mm.
we published, I mean, at least 5,000 people in that offer alone. We've
No
worked
shit.
with over 10,000 people and across all of our offers.
And so before, like when you were in your beginning stage of that, what did that look like? Like, how did you build those connections with these media companies that you said, okay, now we can take these people that are now my clients and then we're going to publish them on your media? How did that kind of play out?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's an awesome question, man. And the truth is this, like, a lot of this stuff, um, these relationships with these stations, this isn't something new that we created for them and approached them and pitched them on something new and innovative. What we did is we simply took something that was already being done, let's say by big corporate brands that have been
Mm.
around for um, 20, 30 years, in which generally they're taking, let's say my business is called ABC Ventures, and ABC Ventures wants to put out a news release about what they're doing. Generally, these sort of setups and situations are made for that. They're not really made just for high scale for an agency like myself, but it
Yeah.
still works like that. And so
Okay.
for me, I, as a online entrepreneur, understand the needs of other online entrepreneurs. And so I was just like, wait a minute, why can't we use that same sort of platform that most people are using for a very corporate, antiquated, if you will, setup? And I wonder what would happen if we published people like individuals, and if we use that same process. And so, yeah, we made a lot of connections by reaching out to different people. Some weren't okay with the setup that we had going on, and that's okay. Like, you're not going to get a
Mm-hmm.
yes from everybody. But the biggest and most important piece for us, because we've been publishing individuals in less, formal corporate situations, is really distinguishing our role in the article. So, it's like a partnership with, let's say, Dendy Media, as
Yeah.
opposed to, us pretending that, we had nothing to do with it. But as long as, those disclaimers are there and, all that is on track, it really creates a win-win situation for everybody.
And so you're almost the middleman in the media coverage, right? Or is that
Yeah,
how does
more or
how does
less.
that kind of overview look like?
More or less a middleman, but not in the sense of like somebody being like, oh, well, why do I need to use Kyle? Because
Yeah.
you
You
if
have connections to Fox Media?
well, it's that situation, but it's also this. Like, I want to publish 1,000 people in a month.
Yeah.
So the numbers on that they can justify compared to if an individual comes and says, hey, we just want to publish one story. So it's just like if you're, if you're selling on Amazon, if you're selling something and you're able to get things in bulk, you're able to say to a company, hey, because I'm going to get 1,000 products from you instead of one, we can work out a better deal, a better situation. And
Yeah.
so I basically bet on myself and my own company. And we have had months where we published over 1,000 people. Um, and, and that created its own, chaos sometimes. But yeah, so we play the middleman, but we also, if you were to try to do it yourself, your cost wouldn't be as low as we're able to get it for you,
Hmm.
because of that role that we play and because we're trying to help so many people with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes sense. So, what is the obviously like the end results your clients are seeing? Are they seeing higher traffic, more conversions? What is it that they're looking for?
That's an awesome question. So it really depends on which outlet we're talking about. I never tell any of my clients, even if we're publishing them in Forbes, I never tell any of my clients um, to expect sales to come directly from the article. Like if you
Hmm.
get published in the New York Times, it is very likely you're not going to have sales come directly from the article. What I have had happen, whether it's on our $97, low ticket offer with the Fox, CBS, NBC, or whether it's a Forbes, is a few different things. One, when a client gets featured in one of these places and they go and they share it on their social media, man, as many people as have purchased from you on your platform, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, whatever, there's also a lot of people who are on the fence and they need to know you, like you, or trust you more.
Hmm.
And so when you share, hey, I would just featured in Forbes, I would just featured in whatever, go and
Yeah.
check out the article, it helps a lot of people get over that hump. The second benefit that people get, and this is one of the biggest ones, is Google SEO. So I always ask people the question, like, what happens when somebody Googles you? Because when I hear about somebody for the first time and I'm like, hey, who is this person? I always
Yeah.
go to Google, and many of us do as well. And so when we get people featured in articles, and the higher quality of the article, like let's say a Forbes, for example, is going to
Mhm.
rank a lot higher. So when somebody searches you organically or from whatever traffic source, they're like, dang, like they found you, and they can go through a paper trail of more and more articles. And then honestly, the number one reason why people come to me for articles is because they're looking to get verified on social media. And as a lot of people have come to
Mm.
discover, the number one way to get verified, and really the only way for most people, is press. And that is, getting
No
featured
shit. Okay.
in media articles. The more the better, the bigger the better. But the only way, unless you're already, a household name that just happened to just now create an Instagram to get verified, is to have press.
Yeah. Because a lot of people do struggle with that. You see all these fake accounts where they're trying to sell people on, okay, buy my course or buy this, and it's not even the real account.
Which is, so let's talk about that really quick. When it comes to verification, man, that's another thing that's so important, because man, the bigger you get, the more people start to try to exploit from your audience by,
Yep.
creating a Kyle Dendy account that has a one instead of an L in the name.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that people oftentimes overlook it and don't do their due diligence. But at the end of the day, people get on Instagram to just scan through. And so they can have a fake account reach out to them, and they don't do their due diligence and click on it and see when the pictures were posted. And unfortunately, people do get scammed.
Yeah.
However, when you do have that blue badge, it does help people, distinguish between your real account and a fake one.
Mm. And so what does that process look like? Is it just media coverage and article publications, or is that any different?
Yeah, so there's two ways to get verified. One is a lot better than the other. The first one is that you can actually go within the Instagram app on your phone, and you can actually request verification. And it's a little bit better now than it was a few months ago, because a few months ago you could upload your driver's license picture, you could add your name, and you could say request verification, and you could hope that, this AI is going to go to Google and search through your articles. Now,
Yeah.
what they actually added to that form is a way where you can actually add those links to your other social media. So you can add links to your social media, or to your other articles. So if you were
Mhm.
just featured in, the New York Times.com, right? You could take that link and you could actually add it there. And so it's a much more seamless process. Even then, most people who apply through the app don't get verified. And it's important for people to also understand, like, verification isn't supposed to be for everybody. If everybody was
Yeah.
verified, it would mean nothing, right? However,
Hmm.
there are some other ways that you can get verified. There's something called a media portal, which just means that, big agencies, whether it's a professional sports team or a marketing agency that perhaps spends an outrageous amount of money or represents a lot of different clients, they may have a dedicated Facebook rep who can actually manually review verification requests. But even if you have that, even if you're famous already, you still need press. And I've seen
Mm.
situations where somebody was famous, like well known, and they didn't have enough press to get it right away.
Yeah. And so, in terms of like clients, individuals, what type of individuals are you helping? Is it specific
Yes.
industries or?
Yeah. So I would say I'm glad you asked that too. I'm going to tell you why in just a minute, but I would say the perfect client for me and the one we help the most is the online entrepreneur. So the entrepreneur who is not just like, crushing it, but has no digital presence, but the entrepreneur who like is promoting what they do on social media, on Instagram.
Mhm.
And that is a big, whether it's revenue stream or just traffic stream. And, a big part of their audience is on social media. That's
Yeah.
the number one person we help. I say that's a great question that you ask, because when I first started in entrepreneurship, I created offers and I didn't distinguish who it was for.
Mm.
So I created, for example, a public speaking course that helped people land speaking engagements, paid, free, virtual, in person, all these things. But when I first started, we've since put over 7,000 people inside of it that have signed up for it. But when I first started, it's perfect for the new speaker, for the beginner or even amateur speaker. If you're well experienced and you've been doing it for 20 years, it's not for that person. But I didn't make that distinction. And so all the unsatisfied customers were the people who had been doing it, right? And who were
Yeah.
expecting more advanced things. But then I changed the marketing to, hey, aspiring speaker, hey, beginner speaker. And when I did that, things just took off, because there's a huge amount of people in that audience. And if you can really narrow down on who you're trying to serve, you can serve them better.
Mm. So what do your procedures look like in terms of if someone has zero credibility and say they're in real estate, but they claim to have credibility, they come to you and they want to get featured on um, any type of articles or publications, media coverage, whatever it may be. What does that process look like? How do you filter through the people who
Right.
shouldn't be covered?
No, that's a great question. And I'll be honest, like it's difficult at scale. When we started, it was a lot easier when I was having more one-on-one conversations with everybody. So there's a
Yeah.
few different things that we do. I would say like 3 to 4. One is that we have a few topics that we don't even touch. And it's not that a person that is in that um, demographic isn't legit, but it may get flagged by certain news sites. And so we just don't even mess with it. So for
Yeah.
example, gambling is one that we don't touch. Um, there's another one that is like CBD cannabis. Some
Mhm.
sites let us do it. Other ones are like, hey, we don't want to touch that.
Hmm.
And then one that I personally try to vet a little more is like everything within like the like trading, like if somebody's a trader, just because, you know, some people are legit, some aren't.
Yeah.
Another step that we have in place is we actually have somebody, if you submit a story, it doesn't go straight to the news site. Somebody on
Yeah.
my team actually does review it.
Filters
Um,
it.
somebody does filter it. I'm going to give you two more things that we do to vet. One, we have a pretty open policy of like, stuff can slip through. So we've had times
Yeah.
where somebody did get published and somebody reached out and was like, hey, this person's kind of fishy. And, we looked into
Mm.
it, we got it taken down. And the last one is this. Um, our interviews, which we do for the story we actually published, the questions are very open ended. So we really steer away from, I don't let people, um, get published with a title that says, you know, Kyle Dindy is the number one best real estate in the world.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
we can do is we can do an article that is, hey, the title is this, Meet Kyle Dindy. It's open ended. And the questions are about, hey, tell us how you got to where you are now. Tell us what you do. And so, we try to put as many of those things in place as possible, but I'm telling you,
Yeah.
still at scale, stuff will slip through. But
Yeah.
we try
Yeah.
to create, again, a beginner offer that gives somebody the chance to tell their story more so than us trying to say that somebody is the number one best fill in the blank.
Yeah. And that's probably the hardest part, is doing it at scale, filtering through those each individual because $97, and then you have to filter through each individual thing. It's a lot of processing you probably have to do.
It is, but at the same time, like the person who on my team like is in charge of reviewing that, that's like what they do. Like
Yeah.
it's not all they do, but that's like their main job.
Okay.
And so they're designated to do that, right? So
Yeah.
I don't try to give people 8 different tasks in 8 different spaces, if
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Um, and so the next section I want to dive into is goals. What does life for you look like in the next 10 years? Do you have any ambitions you want to dive into? Any other industries, companies you want to build, people you want to help? What does
That's a
that
great
next
question.
10 years look like?
Yeah, I mean, my setup, if you will, looks different than most 23-year-old entrepreneurs. Like I've been married for a year and a half, so like a lot of my goals are different now than they were,
Mm,
um, you know,
2 years ago,
a year
3
and a
years
half
ago.
ago.
Yeah.
At the same time, like I'll be honest, like probably especially leading up after the pandemic, I really stopped making long-term goals as much because like a year and a half ago, pre-pandemic, I would have told you my goals were way different.
Mm,
Like I was my what I was doing full time was, I had public speaking tours that I was getting paid for. Then I had my speaking program helping others. So I
yeah.
don't know exactly what, 10 years from now looks like, except that I want to be, an amazing husband, an amazing father, when that time comes. And I also want to be an entrepreneur that's doing things at an even higher level. And,
Mhm.
you and I were both young. And I think sometimes we can get caught up in like, man, this person, Grant Cardone just did this big deal, whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
these guys are like, and this isn't a bad thing, but decades older than us. And so the fact that we
Yeah.
have the information, and you told me earlier that you're in 2 masterminds, like, dude, that's incredible. Like, and if we just stay consistent for the next years, it's only up from here. Like, that's the
Mm,
only direction we can go. As far as different industries, I know I want to, sometimes I can get, what's it called? Shiny object syndrome, where I'm like, man, it looks shinier over here. Maybe I
yeah.
should try to, do this, whatever. So I want to have the PR business because most of the offers we have are relatively automated. So I want to have those consistent. I don't really want to abandon them just because
Mhm.
there's some things that there's really no reason I shouldn't just have going. I'm in LA. So one thing that I want to be getting into here, really in the next few months, is starting my car rental fleet. So I want to get a few different exotic cars. Cars are something that I'm very, very, very passionate about. And
Yeah.
so that's something that I want to get into as a business as well. And then from that place, I kind of want to just continue to build out the services under this umbrella of social media, if you will. So
Mhm.
press, we talked a lot about in this interview, but that's like one thing that we can offer. If somebody comes to me saying, hey, Kyle, I want to get verified, I want to be able to help with that. I'm talking to somebody right now and their account has been, attacked and taken down. And so we
Yeah.
can help them get that account back. I want to be able to help somebody with their brand and their website, not me doing it, but be able to connect them with somebody and maybe get a commission and just
Yeah.
have an endless amount of things under this umbrella. Like I'm 23, I'm an entrepreneur doing my thing, but I kind of live each day like, man, like what do I want to be when I grow up? And I
Mm,
say that in the sense of I kind of live open handed with the things I'm working on now. And I just want to continue to keep that like that game mindset, like we talked
mm,
about, of, you know, I want to just continue to, I don't know if
yeah.
you grew up playing video games, but like I did. And like I loved the idea of being able to level up and like get your person built out the way that you want. And
Yeah.
honestly, that in my brain doesn't register any different than when I'm doing business. It's just real life.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's what I love the most about it.
I love that. Especially just not that it's never enough, but just that, like, you've kind of already built a business that you could stop right now, but it's like You're an entrepreneur. That's not you. You're gonna, like, why would you stop right now? And the other thing was when you addressed like Grant Cardone, I had Mark Evans on the podcast, and he was talking about, he was like, I was asking him about if someone's 18, like what should they be doing right now? And he was like,
Right.
listen, if they're 18, they should go find something. But he was like, put this aside, the fact that like you're not going to try and be me next year. He's like, dude, it took me 27 years to get here. So realizing that you're young and you have all the opportunity in front of you, but then you also have all the resources to find the resources that you
That's
need
good. Yeah.
to be able to get to where you want to be. Where are you going to go?
Well, I was going to add to that because I think that's so good. I think our generation, we have access to more resources than any generation before. So like, we grew up with, smartphones and the internet, and we can learn about drop shipping and real estate and all these things. I think that's a huge, huge advantage. Like we have
Yeah.
more technology than they first sent people to the moon with, right?
Yeah.
I think the issue that we have is context when it comes to time, right? And so it's like somebody can be talking about in business, or like, yeah, I've been doing real estate, and I made my first million, 20, 30 years ago, or the market was like this 20, 30 years ago. And for us, if we think about 20, 30 years, it's like, yo, I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah.
Or even if somebody is like, hey, I've been doing this for 10 years. For a lot of us, it's like we were kids, or at least like teenagers, whatever it may be, 10 years ago. And so I think we can see people's Instagram reel and think, man, how do I do what he has done in 27, 30 years? How do I do that in 2 to 3 months?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very scary thing, because when it doesn't happen, people feel like
Creates
something's wrong with them.
anxiety, depression, all that.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, Kyle, I appreciate you sharing your story. I think a lot of people can take some reflection and really just strategize in life and in business. If people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Man, I mean, you can go to kyledendy.com. The very best way to find me, though, to connect with me, if you want to shoot me a DM or just check out my stuff, is Instagram. And that's Kyle Dendy. That's the best place to connect with me. I'll do my best if you reach out to hit you back, answer a question if I can. But that's where I'm most active on social media.
And I'll drop Kyle's socials in the comments below. And if you guys want to connect with him, those will be in the comments below. So Kyle, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I look forward to connecting in the future, hopefully.
Man, well, this was awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to come share my story, and wish everyone listening to this the best of luck in everything they put their hands to.